Good evening, this is Quintus Curtius. Welcome back to the podcast. And in this podcast, we're going to be talking about an email that I received a couple days ago from a young guy who's getting ready to go off to boot camp in the Marine Corps. And he's going to be going to boot camp on the West Coast in San Diego. There's two Marine Corps recruit training depots. There's one in Paris Island, and there's one in San Diego, and that's where enlisted men go for their training. Officers have a little bit of a different path. They go to officer candidate school, which, depending on the program, is roughly about 8 weeks at OCS, and then after that, you pass that, then new second lieutenants have to go to 6 months of the basic school in Quantico, Virginia. So it's a little bit of a different path. But anyway, this guy sent me an email a couple of days ago, and he said that basically he's going to be heading off soon to MCRD, Marine Corps Recruit Training Depot, and if I had any pointers or advice. And when you get an email like this, there's always kind of these mixed emotions you get that go along with it. You feel kind of nostalgic, and there's just so much to say, but at the same time, there's so little to say. And let me explain what I mean by that. There's so many things that you want to share, that you want to explain, that you want to convey. But I know from my own experience that some things you just can't really explain to people. They have to see it for themselves. They have to experience it for themselves. And once they've done that, then the experience will mean whatever it means to them. It's like trying to explain, it would be like trying to describe to someone how you went through an intensely personal experience. You can do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it never seems to really measure up. It never seems to quite be adequate because it is such a personal experience. But at the same time, there are some useful tips and pointers that you can give somebody. So that's what I wanted to do. I sent him a response email, but then I thought, you know what, there must be other guys out there that might want to hear this. Even people who have no intention of going to any sort of military training facility or going through anything like that. Sometimes it's nice just to listen to these things, listen to these stories. So let me kind of run down my list of what I thought were the most relevant and useful pointers that you can offer someone who's just about to become a new recruit. And you can judge for yourself whether you think these are useful or not. So in no particular order, let me start. The first thing I said was, keep your mouth shut and do what you're told. Keep your mouth shut and do what you're told. When you first arrive at MCRD, those instructors are going to get right on that bus with you and order your asses out. And you're going to stand on the little yellow footprints, and your entire regiment is going to be controlled from during every waking minute and even at night. So it's important for you to establish right off the bat that you know how to follow orders. Okay, nobody gives a shit about what you think or your opinions or what's going to happen now or what's going to happen later. Or you have to learn how to disengage from your old slimy self, your old slime bag self, and to make your mind a blank slate and do what you're told. And in today's society, that's a big achievement because everybody now is told that they're a precious snowflake and their opinion matters and they're important and all this other stuff. And none of that matters. None of that matters there. And you need to get that through your head. And in many ways, guys want to be told that. And I'm not going to get into the big psychological dimensions of being a recruit, but a lot of young guys are craving the discipline because it doesn't exist anywhere else anymore. All right, so that's the first point. Second point is, don't be skylined. And this is a word that we used to use back in the old days. And my background was I attended OCS, Officer Candidate School. I was a ROTC, a Navy ROTC student when I was in college at MIT, and I attended OCS in 1989, and I went to the basic school in Quantico also after I graduated in 1990. So that's my background, all right? And even though enlisted man's training is different from officer training, the culture is similar. The culture is the same. With the officer training at OCS, you're expected already to know certain things when you get there. You're expected to have been at your school during the summers, your unit, your activities during the year and during the summers. You're already expected to have a certain level of physical fitness, a certain level of knowledge, a certain level of understanding of the basics. Okay, that's not really the case with recruit training with enlisted men. You go there as a blank slate. I mean, people, the recruits that go there, I think for the first couple of days, I think they even wear sneakers with their camis, with their camouflage bottoms. So they gradually get eased into that whole military life, that Marine Corps lifestyle over time. So it's just a different culture. And I also think that the purposes of the two programs are different. At OCS, at Officer Candidate School, the goal is to weed people out. The goal is to evaluate. They're not really training you in anything. The goal is to put you under as much pressure as possible to see if you can handle being the type of person who can lead men in tense situations under extreme conditions of extreme duress. So you're going to experience sleep deprivation. You're going to experience being pushed to the physical limits. You're going to experience all those things so they can evaluate you. I mean, all that stuff exists. Some of that stuff exists with recruit training, but it's a little bit scaled back. The focus, I think, is a little bit more on building a unit, building cohesive units, than on kind of pitting everybody against each other and washing people out. So it's just a difference of culture. But anyway, in any case, to get back to my point, my second point was you don't want to stand out for any reason. You don't want to get skylined. And that word skylined means when your image appears on the horizon. Imagine you're walking along a ridge and the outline of your body appears on the horizon. You do not want to be skylined. And that can happen if you screw up in some way or you do something to stand out. Because once that happens, those instructors are just brutal. They'll be all over you, and you'll get the whole harassment package. And it seems like in every one of these groups or classes, they always seem to pick out a handful of people to just always come back to. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that guy. You do not want to stand out. So do what you can not to stand out. I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable, and it doesn't mean that you're bad or good or anything. Some people just draw attention to themselves. It's just the way things are in some ways. But the more invisible you can make yourself in those environments, generally, the more pleasant your experience will be. But again, you have to do the best you can with that situation. All right. The third point is take care of your feet. Okay, please take care of your feet. Why do I say that? Because so much of these Marine Corps activities, and I think the military in general, revolves around foot care. You're going to be marching, you're going to be humping, you're going to be you're going to be running, you're going to be doing everything on your feet. I mean, you don't want to get injured in general, but your feet are especially important because they can easily get torn up. You know, if you're putting on boots and you're going out on humps or marches or running with boots on. I've seen really, really good guys, physically fit guys, athlete material, get laid low just by having foot problems, extreme blistering, sprained ankles, messed up toes, whatever. So you've got to take care of your feet. And what that means is make sure you've got well-fitting boots. There's a lot of different theories. I was never really big into a lot of these foot remedies. There are guys that swear by like the foot powder. I always found that useless. Foot powder and like this moleskin shit. It's like this adhesive stuff that you can cut out and glue or stick on your feet. I guess it's supposed to protect your feet from blisters, and it works. If you need to use it, it's not bad. But the best thing I found is to have boots that are broken in and that are well fitting. I used to go overboard with some of that stuff. I remember when I was getting ready to go to OCS, I would run around, on Boston Common with boots on, and I would buy, I bought a pair of boots that were a little bit too big, so I could put like an extra insole in the bottom to kind of make them extra cushioned. All these things I thought were really tricks, and they they weren't bad or anything, but I don't really know how much that really helped. But take care of your feet. That's important, because you get messed up feet, you're going to get either kicked out or get recycled. And you do not want that to happen. All right, fourth point is be a team player. Be a team player. Do not be a selfish, self-centered prick. All right, we live in a society that now glorifies individualism. I'm great, I'm the best, I'm this, I'm that. Okay, that is not part of unit ethic. That is not part of the unit ethic. Okay, you're expected to be a team player. All right, that doesn't mean you go around wiping other people's noses or whatever, but what it does mean is that you hold up your end, that you don't complain, that you don't be a troublemaker, you don't spread rumors, or you don't talk shit about people or whatnot. You know what being a team player means. If you need me to explain that to you, then you're not a team player. All right. So the instructors are very sharp. Trust me, you cannot bullshit these instructors. These sergeant instructors, these platoon sergeants, you cannot bullshit them. These guys are trained experts. They can run their eyes down a whole platoon of guys, and they can tell which ones are the ones they want to hone in on and which ones they don't need to do that for. So if you are a individualist, if you are a troublemaker, you will be spotted. You will be found out. So plan accordingly. If you are not a team player, work on being one. Work on being one of the guys. Okay? Work on being a team player. All right. The fifth thing is know your shit. Know your stuff. Okay? If you're told to memorize things, for example, if you're told to memorize the general orders, or if you're told to memorize leadership traits and principles, if you're told to memorize hand and arm signals, if you're told to memorize whatever, okay, do it. Do not be a shitbag. Do not be the loser who doesn't know anything. Because, again, it goes back to being skylined. You do not want to be skylined. All right. Number 6. Inspections are going to happen all the time. You're probably going to have to stand in front of your rack, your bunk. Is the Marine Corps, they call it a rack. I don't know what the freaking Army calls it, but we call it a rack. You're going to have to stand for inspections both in a squad bay and also out on the grinder where close order drill is done. And inspections are very, very, very important. Okay, I cannot stress how important inspections are, because it's basically your chance to show yourself to everybody else. And if you're standing up there in front of a group with IPs dripping off your uniform, that's another Marine Corps expression. IPs, it stands for Irish pennants. It must be a British term, obviously. It's a derogatory term which indicates loose threads that hang off clothing. Pennant, Irish pennant. So it, if you have a uniform, make sure that you've cut off all the IPs off of it, that it's been groomed and conditioned, and it's appropriate for inspection. Everything, boots, shined, polished, all that stuff. Because, towels not hosed up. Because the people that have problems with inspections are generally people who are slovenly and disorganized and do not know how to prioritize their time. And those instructors will hone in on that. And it impresses people when you are looking good and when you feel like you're squared away. So pay particular attention to these inspections. They are important. Okay. Number 7, close order drill, looking good on the grinder. Okay, close order drill is also very, very important. Learn how to operate as a group. You have to know how to do close order drill. Know how to do it. Right face, left face, about face. Right obliques, left obliques, to the rear march. All that stuff. You'll get all that. Practice and experience on how to do that. But you want to make sure that your body is erect. You are not bouncing up and down. You are brushing your fingernails against the side of your trousers, all that stuff, whatnot. Okay, so you gotta look good in these situations. All right, number 8, be in shape. Okay, you would think that would be self-explanatory, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I do not know. You do not enter a training environment if you're out of shape. I mean, you should already go down there being in shape. Your body is going to be under a lot of stress, a lot of duress, and the better shape that you're in, the easier things are going to be for you. So if you have time, if you know when you're heading off for training, make sure you're in the best shape possible, because things are just going to be harder, man. They're just harder. I remember when I left for OCS, and this probably would have been in late June or early July. Yeah, it must have been late June of 1989. And I was pretty good. In those days, a physical fitness test was, pull-ups, sit-ups, and a 3-mile run. My run times were pretty good. But when I got down to Quantico, man, the first inventory PFT, I just was sucking wind. I was sucking wind, and I don't know if it was the humidity or what it was or just the environment, but my run time was just horrible. It was like, several minutes slower than what it normally was. And I guess the point is that things are, when it comes to showtime, things are always going to be more difficult than you think they're going to be. Okay? And let's see, the next one is, the next thing, I think number 9 we're on. Drink water. Okay? Drink water. Okay? You would think that would be common sense, but it isn't. You are going to be dehydrated to the extreme in these training environments. And you need to be drinking enough water so that when you piss, the piss is clear. It's not yellow. It's not have any color to it. So it's just the water is just going in you, and you're constantly hydrating those cells, those organs, so that your body can function at its peak capacity. And I'm telling you, this stuff, even though you can hear it, it can sneak up on you. When I was at TBS, and this was in 1990. I got heat exhaustion from just one of the graded events. It was a land navigation, and what you have to do is you have a map and a compass, and you have to go out in the training area and find, over this huge area, you have to find a certain number of points, and you get a scorecard, and you have to complete it within a certain time. And I was out there doing it, and you're out there all alone, and it's summer and it's hot, and you've got a uniform on and whatnot, and you're sweating. You're sweating like hell. And you have canteens of water, but I drank all my water, and I was so absorbed in completing my task that I forgot to refill, or I didn't think of refilling my canteens at these water bowls, these like portable water tanks that they have everywhere. I just didn't do it, and you notice as I was getting towards the end, I was slowing down. I felt like I was dragging ass. And it's not like in the movies when you're thirsty, when your body is suffering from lack of water, you feel nausea. It's not what you think. You don't really feel thirst. You feel sick, like you feel like disoriented. And I thought maybe I had something I had eaten or something I had drank was wrong, so I couldn't really figure out what was going on. But I finished the I finished the course, and the land nav course got everything. Everything was fine. Everything was good. And I turned in my scorecard, and I went back to the BOQ rooms with my roommates, and I just cramped up. I sat down, and I had a hard time just kind of moving around, like getting up, and I figured, okay, something's not right here. So I went to sick bay, and they told me that I was dehydrated. I was severely dehydrated. So they gave me water in an IV, and man, it felt like it was one of the most incredible feelings I've ever had. It's you can feel this cold water going into your veins. You feel like you really feel like a sponge. Your body's just soaking it up. So anyway, the point of that story is to make sure you hydrate. Got to make sure you drink water, because heat exhaustion is a serious thing, and it can just shut you down. That's what happens is you basically get shut down. If I had continued on without drinking, I would have probably reached a point where you just have to you can't move. You just sit down and you just can't continue. So anyway, and the last thing is learning. I think number 10. I think we're on here. Learn to deal with sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation is one of those big tools in the trainer's arsenal of tricks, a bag of tricks, and you're not going to get a lot of sleep. At least it wasn't that way for us at OCS. They deliberately want to put you under stress, put you under duress, see how you perform. And I assume it's probably the same way for recruits at the different MCRDs, whether Parris Island or San Diego. So you have to learn how to find coping mechanisms for sleep deprivation. I don't really know how you can really train for that. Maybe you can't. But I think it does help to know going into it that's going to be something you're going to have to deal with. And if you know going into it that that's going to be part of the harassment package, then you'll be better able to handle yourself in the event. So those are my tips. I think there are 10 of them, and I'll read them off here again. I'm not going to read them off. You can go back and listen to the recording. You don't need me to read them off again. So those are my points of guidance for new recruits, and hopefully that will be something that you can listen to and process. But like I said, you can listen to these things. You can shake your head. You can nod your head. But once you finish, it's going to mean whatever it means to you, and you'll have your own spin to put on it. And then, 20, 30 years later, you can tell some other young guy what it meant to you. So anyway, that'll conclude our podcast here for tonight. I'm Quintus Curtius. Good night.